Hey there, friends, going through another one of my mystery boxes that I got in from CMMG. And we're just sitting there thinking, you know, these politicians rolling into the election season, especially this home stretch, they say things that you're just not sure about. So sometimes you have to look at their history, right? You have to look at the things that they've said in the past and kind of reflect on whether or not you believe what they've always been, or whether or not you're going to buy into the fact that maybe the things they say now might be true, maybe they've changed. I mean, how do you weigh that out, right? If you've got years or even decades in some cases of how somebody has operated, and then suddenly they tell you, oh, I've changed, and this is 40 days before an election, do you give them the benefit of the doubt and think maybe they've changed? Or do you base your vision of them on what they've always been? I mean, it's a hard balancing act, right? It's tough in some cases because most of us don't live our lives like a politician. We don't just lie, right? We don't lie to keep our jobs. Of course, I guess it depends on what you did on your job, whether or not you're lying to keep it. But most of us don't live our lives based on lies. Our job is not a popularity contest. In most cases, I realize politics certainly plays into many different jobs out there. However, I don't conduct my life in the business that I run as a popularity contest. We're lucky enough to where the types of jobs that we might take in my business, I work in construction. If I get a feeling about a customer that it's not going to be a good marriage between them, we're not so hungry and so desperate for income and revenue that we're willing to sacrifice what we believe in and our own sanity to deal with some kind of a nutbag or crazy person. There's actually a pretty prominent attorney here in town who I did a really nice design for a custom swimming pool years ago and did a lot of work, bid it out and everything, and come to find out, I didn't know what their political leanings were. They're actually hardcore flaming liberals. I didn't know that. They lived in a nice neighborhood with a bunch of other people that were hardworking people, but they were attorneys. So no offense to you attorneys out there, but they were attorneys. So come to find out, we didn't get the job. Didn't understand why, because I had done so much work on design and things like that. I had really worked hard. I felt like, I didn't deliver what my personal or political views were to them during the process, but apparently they found out. I do have a show on television here in town on the Fox network Sunday morning. So obviously they either found out what my leanings were or somebody told them, one of their liberal wacko friends. Never heard from them again. In fact, not even a courtesy, hey, we're going to go with somebody else. Again, not a big deal. I have other people who I never hear from them and they go with somebody else. That's not a big deal. Just found out later on what their leanings were, and I was like, well, that makes sense. And I get that. That's perfectly fine, because if I would have known their political leanings, I likely would have withdrawn my bid from them. Again, we're not desperate. We don't need every job here in town. When we get a funny feeling about a customer, we back away. We don't want to deal with those customers. We will likely just bow out and say, we're not going to be able to take care of you. We do it politely and professionally. We don't tell them, you're a wacko liberal, I'm not doing business with you. We politely and professionally say, this is probably not something that we're going to be able to help you out with. There are other options. Good luck. If you need something, let us know. There's ways to handle that. So again, the whole premise, our minds don't work like politicians. So we don't assume everybody is lying to us at that very moment for popularity reasons. Most of us in business are not that desperate that we have to satisfy that group, go to lunch and satisfy that group, which might not have agreed with the breakfast group that morning. And then we have a dinner group that doesn't agree with either one of the other groups that it went to. So we change our focus all over again. We don't live our lives like that. Politicians do. They literally lie for a living. All of your really successful politicians who are gazillionaires right now have made a history of lying for a living. And that's how they continue to get reelected. Of course, then you have name recognition after that, that falls into play. So then people vote for the name they recognize. So politics is a really strange game. Firearms and the Second Amendment are an extremely polarizing topic, right? You will find a lot of people out there that will consider themselves one topic, one issue voters. You don't agree with them, you don't support the Second Amendment, they will not vote for you. Sometimes they won't vote at all. They won't even vote for your opposition. But in many cases, they will go to the extreme and just vote for the opposition because you don't believe like they do. And I approve that. I support that. I think that if you have a position and your principles are that strong, you should stand by them, right? I don't think that you should compromise your views just because somebody is bullying you or pressuring you to do so. If you're not comfortable with that candidate, simply do not vote for them. But we see a lot of these candidates flip-flopping, and more specifically, Kamala Harris. So Kamala Harris has long had a history of being anti-gun, has long parroted the mandatory buyback, the assault weapons ban, as little as a month ago.
We are finally going to pass universal background checks, red flag laws, and an assault weapons ban.
So who am I to believe whenever they change their mind? Do I take her at her word? Wait a minute. Let's see something here. Let's see what her latest leanings are. Well, you know, if I'm being a reasonable person, a nice person, respectful of her opinion, respectful of believing the words she's saying. If she says it, surely it's true, right? I mean, I've got to believe it. She wouldn't lie, right? She said in the debate,
Tim Walz and I are both gun owners. We're not taking anybody's guns away.
Oh, well, I mean, that's different, right? I mean, that means they're Second Amendment supporters, right? They both own, and nobody's going to take your guns away. Well, that's interesting. Okay, well, maybe I need to change my mind. Maybe she's not so anti-Second Amendment after all. Maybe she's not against the Constitution after all. I mean, she did say that nobody's going to take our guns away, right? I mean, maybe I should just reconsider my position and my vote. Do I want to cast it for Kamala? Because she's changed her mind. You know, I mean, let's not put too much stock into what she has thought and where she stood over the last 60 years of her life.
We usually don't pick up hitchhikers. But I'm going to go with my instinct on this one. Saddle up, partner.
Let's give her some credit. I mean, over the last few days, maybe she truly had a change of heart. Maybe she saw that the Second Amendment truly protects all the other amendments. Maybe she sees that the right to self-defense isn't a government-issued right, that it's a God-given right that we all fundamentally have. I mean, I could see her changing her mind to suddenly support the Second Amendment because it makes the most sense, right? Isn't it a rational thought that you support the Second Amendment? Wouldn't it be the most reasonable thing to think that a person who was anti-gun finally saw the error of their ways because they were erred ways, and suddenly they started supporting the Constitution because it literally is the right thing to do? So, I mean, in this case, I could see her changing her mind if she were a reasonable person, right? So maybe I'll have to reconsider my vote now that she is a gun owner, just like me. And her and Tim both own guns, and they're not taking my guns away. I mean, she said it. Those were her own words, right? So I'm going to consider it now. Maybe Kamala's not such a bad choice after all. Wait, what's this notification? Oh, never mind. Oh, well.
I don't understand the point that you're making.
God save the Queen, man.
I'm sorry, I thought this was America.
He's over.